to explain what is happening. Which line are we executing? What is it doing on that line when we execute it? That's the thing you have to figure out. Are we doing okay so far? Okay. So let's go ahead and save this one. And I'll save it under the name of factorial again. And this is the last time we'll see factorial, because this really is the best representation of factorial as a recursive subroutine. Okay, if you guys don't have questions about this, we'll go through more examples. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. This one is really not very smart, but it does illustrate certain things that we should know. Okay. I'll call this subroutine relay, because that's all it's going to do. Relay has a single bival parameter called x, and that's all it's going to return. In other words, it's not very useful. It's not useful other than being an example. And we'll have another subroutine that does not do anything particularly useful. We call it add. It has two bival parameters. It has one called x. Doesn't really matter what we call these, because all it's going to return is the sum of the two parameters. Okay. In other words, it really is just addition, but in a subroutine's context. So this time we'll have print again, and we'll have invoke add, and then we'll say invoke relay. Oh, we used to specify x the first time, and this specifies x, and then we have invoke again relay. This time we have, well, let's say 5 specifies x, and the result of that invocation specifies parameter y. Okay, let's see if we can figure out what this is going to do. The line is awfully long, but it doesn't do anything really that useful. Okay? What am I going to have to do first? I know I cannot print just yet, right? Because on line 10, the first thing it wants to do is the last thing it has to do is to print. But I cannot print until I know what add is going to return. But I cannot invoke add just yet, because in order to figure out the parameter x and parameter y of add, I first have to invoke relay, and then I have to invoke a relay. Then I can invoke add, then I can print. Okay, are you guys kind of following the order? No? Yes? Kind of? Okay. So let's go ahead and just take a look at the trace of this one. This one looks really bad, but when you really come to think about it, it's really not that bad. Okay, so we'll go ahead. The only thing that makes it difficult is I can't really position the screen right this time because the line is too long. So I have to figure out a way to do that. Okay, I can do some tricks to do it. It will still kind of look bad, but it will be a little bit better. Okay, where's my B size? Right there. Okay, do the line numbers first. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'll put this one all the way to the corner, so I can do this. Is that working out with you guys? The algorithm I'm trying to execute is at the lower left corner, and then the trace is the other part of the screen. It all has to do with I cannot use a smaller font on this screen, because that way you cannot see, people in the back cannot see it. Okay, there are no conditional statements and only one print statement. So I do need a comments column, but I don't really need it until the very end. So I will scroll it out of the screen first. We need line number. There are no global variables again. So you guys probably noticed by now that we have pretty much eliminated the need to use global variables, which is a good thing because global variables are evil. Okay, there's nothing to say about the precondition. We can start executing on line 10. When we do execute line 10, the first thing we have to do is to say, oh, that looks pretty nasty. What am I supposed to do first? I cannot print until I know what add is returning, but I cannot even invoke add until I know what relay is going to return. Now, once again, in this class we follow the left to right order. In other words, we handle invoke relay 2 goes to X first, and then we handle the other relay. So the first invocation is an invocation of relay. Okay, but nonetheless, we still have to set up the return info. Now, the return info, for the most part, has to do with which line am I dealing with. We're dealing with line 10, and line 10 is a print statement. It has invoke, add. This is the invocation we're dealing with, and that's why it is replaced by a single question mark. Yes?
Are you going to add a comments line into that?
A comments line?
Yeah, a column.
Yes, it is already there. That's why we're looking at column B here.
Oh.
I scrolled it out of the screen already because we don't need it until the very end of this algorithm. Okay, whatever this question mark is, we're going to use it to specify parameter x, but that will come later. Okay, so we don't have to deal with that yet. And then we still have the other invoke statement that is unresolved, so we have to copy the other invoke statement exactly the way it appears on on line 10 of the pseudocode. Are we doing okay? How we set up the return info of row 4 of the trace? It looks exactly the same as the line in the pseudocode itself, except the invocation causing this to happen, that invocation by itself is replaced by a single question mark. Okay? Everything else are exactly the same as in the pseudocode because we have not resolved any of that yet. Okay, we need one more column, which is column D, to specify parameter x to relay. I know this is really, really bad because the lines are too long. Okay, what am I going to specify in column D? Now, this time you have to think about which x are we talking about. We're talking about this, right? So parameter x gets a value of 2. Very good. Okay, that's fine. And I can already tell you that we won't need any columns except all the way up to column E. Okay? In other words, as it looks kind of nasty, right? It looks like we have to we need the columns for add, and then we need on top of that we need the columns of relay twice. But that really is not the case. We only need up to column E, and I'll show you guys why we only need up to column E. Go ahead.
Why don't we use the invoke relay 5 to...
Because we read from left to right.
Yes, but it's still invoke relay 5.
Yeah, but I can only invoke one subroutine at a time. I cannot invoke I cannot invoke relay at the same time for this invoke and this invoke at the same time. I have to pick which one I want to invoke first. And because we read from left to right, and that's why we pick, invoke relay 2 goes to X first. Okay? You can only resolve one thing at a time. And we just follow the same order as the natural reading order. But for most people, I'm pretty sure there's languages where they read, in the opposite direction.
Chinese.
Yeah, but in Chinese, that's only when you read, top to bottom first, then it is, right to left. I don't think there are any languages that will read horizontally from right to left and then from bottom to top. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, can anyone tell me why it does not make any sense to read from bottom to top? Think about what happens when you have to write.
Start writing the top.
You will smear whatever you're writing.
That's why I never understood how that
It's difficult because they easily smear whatever they're writing. Okay, so here's line 10. I set up all the columns already, and we are ready to invoke which subroutine again?
the first one.
Relay. Okay, relay is what we are taking care of first, because if you look at the question mark, it replaces the invocation that we are doing at this point, and the question mark is replacing invoke relay 2 goes to X. Okay, so we are invoking relay at this point. The first line and the only action line of relay is line 3. And line 3 really doesn't do much. It returns the value of X. What is X? X has a value of 2. And I don't really care how messy return info looks like, because my job is quite simple. I look for the question mark, replace it with the value I'm returning, and as a return statement, my job is done. Okay? So that's going to be the theme of today's lecture, because we basically just want to know what do we do when we perform the return statement. Okay, well, after line 3 we go to line 4. Line 4, which is our usual end of subroutine, we deallocate both column C and column D, and then we go back to line 10. But line 10 does not look like line 10 of the pseudocode anymore, because now we have one invocation resolved. Can I invoke add at this point? Not yet, because I have another relay to take care of. Okay, well, we'll go take care of that one. So line 10 is now print. I still have the add to take care of. The first invocation of relay is already resolved. Now we take care of the second invocation of relay. And therefore, the second invocation of relay is now replaced by a single question mark. Remember what the purpose of the question mark. It serves as a placeholder so that when we execute a return statement in relay, we know what it is supposed to replace. And we also have to remember to specify parameter x. This time, what is parameter x? Oh, I made one mistake here, so let's see. I forgot to specify this is a return info thing. But x has a value of 5 because x is a by value parameter, and I use 5 to specify that to the second invocation of relay. Are we doing okay so far? Okay, very good. Then we go into the subroutine itself. On line 3, the only thing it does is a return statement. And once again, as a return statement, I don't care how messy return info looks like. My only job is to locate the question mark and replace it with the value that I'm returning. In this case, I'm just returning x, which is a parameter to me, to the subroutine. So this question mark is now replaced by a value of 5. Then I go to line 4. Line 4 is saying, oh, okay, these two columns are no longer in use. They can now be deallocated. And according to row 9 of the trace, we are supposed to go back to line 10. Fine, we go back to line 10. What do we do on line 10? Both of the relays are done. Okay, both invoke relays are resolved. Can we invoke add at this point? Sure. Okay, so we're going to do that. Well, but since it is also returning its own value, we have to do exactly the same thing. We say print, but this time invoke add. The entire invocation of add is replaced by a single question mark because we are taking care of invoking add in this case. Are we doing okay so far? Yep.
Do we have to set return info before line 10, or we check it here?
Oh, you're right. Yep, I forgot to do that. The label of return info, because I have to know what that column is being used for. Very good, thank you. And now this time we have two parameters, because according to the source code here, or the pseudocode, add has two parameters. We have x, which is passed by